Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet again another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. I'm sitting here with my main man, Zach Seegers. Zach, how are you doing today, bro?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. We got a full show. I'm excited to share a new segment with the people. I think it's going to be a great one. How are you doing, Joey?
I'm doing really good, man. You were freaking me out today with all the alien conspiracy theories, and
Oh man,
they're not even. I don't even know what's going on with these aliens.
it's testifying in front of Congress. It doesn't seem like BS. I don't know.
I don't know.
uh, all right. I guess it's just me. We do have a big show. I imagine Joey will be hopping back in to join me any second. But okay, right here he is. Oh my goodness. Hey Joey.
It just said an error occurred and it signed me out of here. We were talking about alien conspiracies, though. I don't know. Quite the coincidence that just happened in the middle of the only time we've ever talked about aliens on this podcast.
Good
Yeah,
point.
I thought that was funny. But anyways, guys, I first want to hop into some big news for the podcast for Zach, Bree, and I. Also, anybody, please go listen to Bree at Broncos Country tonight. That's a big thing. That's why she wasn't able to make it here for this podcast. But let's start off with some big news. Samuel Castro in the chat. This is our very last episode, guys, on the Mile High Sports YouTube. We've been hitting on it for a little bit now, during the podcast. Hey, please go subscribe to the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. We've been making that known, and it's finally happening this time. Zach, Bree, and I, we're kind of going to go take the independent route, and we have more coming in the future. There's more announcements to follow this one. But again, this will be our last time on Mile High Sports. I want to give a big shout out to AP, to Nate, to everybody at Mile High Sports for letting us have this platform and, doing the show. They came to us with the idea during training camp last year, and we've kind of just been doing it since. But I think now it's time, Zach, for us to take the more independent route. So please, everybody, go follow us at Let's Talk Broncos. Again, our last episode on Mile High Sports. But Zach, give me your thoughts on the whole situation.
Yeah, just echo that. Everyone, find us wherever you listen to podcasts. That works too. We're going to be active on the Let's Talk Broncos Facebook. We have Linktree that I think is updated in our social media. We'll be broadcasting that stuff throughout the weekend. Search Let's Talk Broncos on all your social media platforms. Sorry, Joey, what was your question? I was focused on the shout out.
No, you're all good, dude. I was just asking for what your general thoughts were, just going independent. Are you super excited for it? Is there things coming down the pipeline?
Absolutely. Really excited. We've been teasing it for a while now and trying to funnel people over for a while now. We've got things that we can't officially announce yet, but we have some irons in the oven, or whatever the saying is. We have some things in the oven. So stuff is cooking. Oven. What is it? So stuff's in the iron. We got some iron. I don't know. Man. It's something to do with irons in the furnace. I don't know. So stuff is cooking. It's hot. It's exciting. It's new. I want to echo what you said. Thank you to Mile High Sports for all the opportunities they gave us and for their help with us starting out. But I think this new chapter is going to be a great one for us, and bigger and better things. So please follow along. Let's Talk Broncos, all of that good stuff. And then the news. Joey, are you ready to talk some news?
I am. Let's get into actual Broncos. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into what the people are here for, Zach, and that is the news. First thing I want to kind of address on the podcast today is the Uwazurike situation. I think that this one's really, really interesting. Obviously, Uwazurike, I think he was a 4th-round pick last year, correct, Zach?
Yes, he was. He was their first 4th-round pick too. The draft pick they received in the Russell Wilson trade.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, 4th-round pick. Uwazurike, we all know he was suspended last year, or he was suspended for this next upcoming season due to gambling on NFL games. And I don't know. This one's really interesting because Sean Payton's quote at the pressers made it seem like he was criticizing the NFL and their policies towards putting people, suspending these people for the entire year. I'll read you guys the quote. He said, when you have a bunch of players getting Ds, you have to start looking at the message. And we're going to send them home for a year when they can't be around. The idea you just go away, shame on us. That's what he said. So criticizing the league in this situation. Zach, what is your take on his quote there?
Yeah, it's really interesting. He took such a strong stance. I feel like the Broncos might have gotten in trouble for this or gotten a little antsy about this, because today when he talked, he refused to comment on it further. Greg Penner even kind of backed him up and was like, yeah, I think we're all frustrated, but the league, you could feel him kind of walking back some of Sean Payton's aggression. I think Sean Payton has some good points. I don't think it necessarily applies to the Uwazurike thing. You can just never, ever bet on the NFL. That's been clear from day one. But these NFL guidelines have been crazy ridiculous. I think he said that they got a 50-page memo or something at the start of the offseason about all the gambling rules and regulations and guidelines, and he just tore them up. That was another quote he had later on in that same article. He just tore him up, and he went to the I think vice president of football communications inside the Broncos building and said, to take this nonsense and distill it down to a one-page thing we can give our guys. And some of the stuff was pretty handy, helped me learn the rules. You can't bet anywhere you can bring a gun, which is a funny way to frame it. But it's you can't bring a gun to the team facility. You can't bet in a team facility. You can't bring a gun to the airport. You can't bet at the airport or on our airplane and that whole situation. And then there was a third one I can't remember now. But he was like, that's just the rule we told our guys. That don't bet anywhere you can't bring a gun. And I don't know, just little things like that I think is actual meaningful coaching. It's silly, it's small, but I think you get enough of those things tallied up, and it's helpful. That's what coaching is. It's teaching, it's educating, it's putting your guys in a position to succeed. And I think there is a wisdom in going, man, this NFL HR memo is gobbledygook and is not going to help our players stay out of trouble. We need to figure out an in-house solution to this. And I think that's the type of guy Sean Payton is.
Mm-hmm. I have a follow-up to that, Zach. Do you kind of agree with him that these 1-year suspensions, because that's what he was alluding to, let's be honest here, are ridiculous for 1 year long suspensions for gambling? Do you think that should probably be shortened? I think that there should be a suspension involved. 1 year does seem, I think that it should depend on the severity of it. I think that there's always different factors into this. Do you think 1 year is fair or no?
I think it is fair. Sports gambling is blowing up right now. There's a lot of money being invested into the outcomes of these games. And we've already seen it flare up a couple of times with awful referee calls. And people, I think, are a little extra agitated now because they've got money on the game. And it's are you kidding me? You can't allow this stuff to happen. The NFL cannot let there be any type of perception that games are fixed or there's any sort of, or players are fixing games or anything's going on. And that's why they're being so harsh. Is it a little ridiculous that if you assault someone or domestically abuse a partner, you're getting 6 games? And if you bet $10 on a game you're not even playing in, a football game you're not even playing in, you're out an entire year? Yeah, that seems a little silly. I think most rational people could agree with that. I think it's just the way the NFL has to play, because the NFL, unfortunately, is a money-making business, and the sports gambling is going to dictate their bottom line more than the moral stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, I do agree. That makes sense. I want to move on to our next topic here, Zach, and that is the Broncos got rid of Guarantano, quarterback, formerly of the Cardinals, right? And in that, we picked up, I think it was wide receiver Nick Williams, who I think he played at Chaparral here in Colorado, if people don't know that, or it was Cherry Creek. I forget. It was one of the two. And then Brett Mayer, the kicker. What do you make of that move? I don't really have a problem with this at all. I would rather have kicker competition than a quarterback competition just because he was never going to actually make a competition of it. So let's bring some guys in that could possibly do that. What is your take around this situation?
Yeah, I like it. And I have infinitely more confidence in Brett Maher than Elliott Fry. I think he's making more than Elliott Fry by a good deal. Sean Payton said they wanted to bring him in earlier, but they were too far apart on money. So I assume his market depressed some, and that allowed the Broncos to swoop in and sign him. Yeah, the Fry's making less money, it appears. Yeah, he's making the minimum. Maher's making a little ahead of that. So I assume Maher's the favorite, but there's no guaranteed money. So these guys are going to definitely have to earn their contracts. Yeah, I don't have much to say about this other than cast a wide net. I do wish maybe they used the roster spot on something other than a wide receiver. I don't think Nick Williams played a ton for UNLV this past year. He mainly played for CSU Pueblo in college. I haven't been watching a ton of CSU Pueblo. I don't know what he really offers, but the Broncos are crowded enough at wide receiver and have plenty of youth in that room as well. Yeah, I wish they went elsewhere. Maybe even another kicker, because that's going to be a fairly impactful position.
3 kickers.
And they might not have one, not for the whole like preseason, but just like for right now, have a little competition, cut one after a week, cut 2 after a week, and then sign 2 other guys. But yeah, cast a wide net, find a good kicker, because neither of these guys are great, though. I think Maher's the better option. Maher.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I like the kicking competition. For sure. I have no problem with this. At the end of the day, I don't even know if there's much to discuss about this topic. The Broncos got a guy that wasn't going to make the roster and picked up a guy that possibly could.
Yeah. And
that's that plain and simple.
I like it because who's the guy they got from the USFL? DiNucci. DiNucci's a good upgrade over.
Ben DiNucci. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And then for our last topic here, before we get into the real stuff, I want to bring up the Broncos have joint practices, Zach. They are going to play against the Los Angeles Rams on August 23rd and August 24th. This is always the best part of training camp. I've been very vocal on here about how I'm not huge with the training camp hype. I don't really understand it. There's not a lot you can pull out unless you're looking at one specific competition. Specifically, the one year I would say that it was absolutely you should have been there was Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. That was the year that training camp was awesome. But it just isn't that same way right now. But with joint practices, you actually get to see more competition. You get to see people hit each other. You get to see all this good stuff. It's almost preseason football. It's not, but it almost is. So this is my favorite part of training camp. It's always great. Zach, do you have anything else to add on to that?
No, this is better than preseason games, honestly. This is always rejoice if you see your your team doing joint practices. It's great news. This is the most productive thing that can be done during this time of year. I hope they some teams I see even doing joint practices with multiple teams during the off season. I hope the Broncos start doing that soon. I'm glad they're at least doing one a year, but it is more useful than preseason games. You can work with the other team's coaches pretty much to set up the situations you want to see, create different looks, whether that's a disadvantageous situation for yourself so you know how to operate against it, or an advantageous one so you know what it looks like when everything works right. I don't know. It just is it's so much. And preseason game, you have to play a game. So you can't rep things over and over again. If a play gets blown up, you can't necessarily redo that. While in joint practices, you can. Great news. Hope we see more of it.
Yeah, I will say though, Zach, still a lot like preseason football. Not a lot you can take away.
No. It's the most, but that's still not much.
A ton, yes. Because I don't know if you remember last year, how hyped were we on this podcast after the Cowboys joint practice, dude? How hyped were we?
We were hyped.
We were so hyped. Who doesn't remember the Draymond
Yeah, they
Jones
looked great.
doing this up to the guy's head? Who
Yeah,
doesn't
they looked
remember the
They looked
intensity?
stellar.
Someone had a huge hit in the backfield. I forget who that was. I think it was a linebacker on the Broncos. There was so much excitement after that practice, and it just, you know what? The defense did show out, so I got to give them that. They did play good last year. It's just, yeah, I don't know. There's just not a ton you can pull out, but hey, it is what it is. I'm excited for it. It's always fun. It brings the energy at least. And yeah, I don't know. But the next topic today.
Wait, really
Okay.
quick. Sorry. I want to introduce. Sorry, this is a new thing, so we're working out the kinks here. But little rapid fire things that maybe aren't full news segments, but I think we're just fun from the pressers today. We finally got to see Justin Simmons, Cortland Sutton talk to the media, Sean Payton at the podium for the first time in a while. I think first let's start with Sean Payton giving us an update on Javonte Williams and how he's managing some of the workload stuff this offseason.
No, well, listen, any player who had a significant injury a year ago, Bo and I will sit down and we'll have a group one, and that would be someone like him. We'll have days on, limited days, day off. And so there's a process, and it won't only be with him. There'll be a handful of those players, and then we'll have a mid-group of players that we'll have a set schedule with load management, and then the last group would be, veteran players like Kareem. We have, a handful of those guys that we'll be smart with. So he would fall into that first group of a planned schedule as he's recovered from a major surgery. But we're pleased with it, obviously, with his progress. We felt really good about it in the spring, and yet, he put the work in.
So give me your thoughts, Zach. What did you make of that? Give me your quick fire. We'll go back and forth on these.
Yeah, I thought it was just interesting to hear him kind of talk about breaking out the veteran stuff because it is going to be a harder workload in camp. It seems like they're being smart, giving the veterans less days, giving these guys like Tim Patrick and Javonte Williams returning from horrific injuries less days. And just heads up for people going to camp. If you don't see these guys, that's all it probably is.
Yeah, I think that's just as simple as that. Do you have more, Zach?
Yes. This last one, I think, or here. Friend of the show, Caden Stearns. We've been hyping up for a long time here. Here's Justin Simmons hyping up.
Yeah, I think Caden's a tremendous player. He had a lot of great plays during OTAs. Obviously, the times that he got to play last year, I think 2 picks against the Colts, when he stepped up in there. Caden's going to be a heck of a player for a long time, and I'm not just saying that to say that. I mean, he's smart. He understands. He knows how to break down what he's seeing. He knows how to communicate really well. I think all those things are tangibles that you need to have in order to be a great player. So Caden adds a lot of depth for us as a secondary. And I think, we asked the question earlier, what I think about our secondary. I think so highly of us, and we need to be able to do more than we've done in the past. And I think that's just going to help our football team win. Caden's a big part of that.
Man, Caden Stearns is going to be a problem, I think. I really do think that as long as the guy can stay healthy. Justin said it perfect. He's smart. He's athletic. He does all the things on a football field that you really want to see. I always, you get some of these guys, Zach, that are like you get your Justin Strnads coming out of training camp. You get these guys, these Albert O's that coming out of training camp. These guys that have high expectations, but in the back of your head, you're always kind of like, I don't know. I really don't know. Let me tell you the difference with Caden Stearns is he's already shown he can be a good football player. It's about how long can he stay on the field and just increasing that sample size. That's going to be the main thing for him because he has the talent to not just be a good safety, but a really, really good safety in the NFL. And he's kind of even shown flashes of that in the past. I have no doubt in my mind that Caden Stearns could live up to those expectations. And I think he should start this next year.
Yeah, huge breakout candidate. I've been hearing these stories about Justin Simmons gushing about Caden Stearns behind the scenes for years and years. Not surprised to see it here now on a public stage. And let's finish with Sean Payton story about DeMarcus Ware, who will, of course, be enshrined in the Hall of Fame here in a week or two.
I've got a handful of memories, some of them good, some of them not so good. right. He was an immediate impact player, great makeup, everything that you look for, well coached, well raised, disciplined, smart, very athletic. And then shortly thereafter, I went to New Orleans, and we played him a number of times. But the game that stands out is in our 2009 season. I think we were 13-0, and we were playing them on a Saturday night. And he'd been out all week. The injury report, didn't look positive, especially when it was a neck and a back. And so our Wednesday third down meeting, normally we would spend a lot of time on how we're going to handle or nudge him and chip him. But we made the mistake of kind of overlooking that. And then here it comes game day, and he's running through the tunnel introduced. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And he's got a sack and a fumble. And
yeah, man, that's awesome to hear. I love hearing this from a guy from a different perspective. Obviously, the Broncos really didn't play the Cowboys a ton when he was with the Cowboys. And then, so most of my experiences are with him as a Bronco. And I think it's cool hearing somebody I respect, like Sean Payton, talk about that guy and playing against him and how difficult that was and how great of a football player he was. I thought that was an awesome quote. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. He talked about also how it was a learning moment for him. And he was like, okay, we're not taking that injury report as total fact now. And in the Super Bowl, when they played Dwight Freeney, who was on the injury report, they spent serious time game planning for it. I think that's what you want to see, Broncos country, a coach that's quick to learn lessons. I don't think you could say that about any of the last three. So that's good.
Yeah, it was good. I just love we're at a point with the Broncos where we haven't had such a really good team in such a long time that it is like still it hits when you hear about those really good teams. When I was in my prime years as a Broncos fan, all of that different type of stuff. So that was awesome to hear. I love that quote. That was probably my favorite one that we were doing. But let's move into the next topic here. I was saying it earlier, and I'm kind of build off the DeMarcus Ware one. We're going to be talking about biggest camp battles of this Broncos training camp coming up very, very shortly, where fans are actually going to be able to go. Of course, it's already starting. But I want to start with that. Are you okay with it, Zach?
Absolutely.
Cool. Because
Oh, no, we were done on clips. Yeah.
No, totally. I'm talking about the training camp. I was going to say DeMarcus Ware is leading me exactly into my first training camp battle I'm kind of excited to watch for, and that's the edge rushing position. I'm really excited to see what happens there, and not just who makes the team, but where everyone ends up being slotted on the depth chart, I guess, because with Randy Gregory being more of an issue, or not just an issue, he's a tremendous football player and a tremendous person, just the injuries being an issue, you're going to have somebody step up in that. Will that, Zach, be Nick Bonito? Could that be Jonathan Cooper? Could he continue to grow? Is Frank Clark a guy that is going to get more into his past years where he was a dominant edge threat? I don't know. It's kind of interesting it's going to be really interesting to see, even just when that first depth chart comes out for preseason game 1. Where is everyone aligned in there? Who should I expect to play the most amount of snaps? And I'm curious, do you actually think that's a training camp battle, or do you kind of have guys slotted in your head of where they should be right now?
I think it is a training camp battle, and an important one that I didn't quite think of at first, because I don't think that battle's at the starting spots, right? Baron Browning's starting once he's healthy. Randy Gregory starting whenever he is healthy. But that second level, I think, gets really interesting. They valued Aaron Patrick as a special teamer for a long time. Can he maybe finally take the leap to being a more rotational edge guy? It might be tough coming off that ACL. Christopher Allen, he was kind of on IR all last season, but the Broncos invested in him in a reason. I know it was just as a UDFA, but they kept him around that whole time for a reason. They liked his tape at Alabama. He made it to Alabama as an edge rusher for a reason. There is a good deal of talent there. So I don't know, maybe he can join the mix. But the most interesting part is, of course, Nick Bonito, Frank Clark, and Jonathan Cooper. How is that going to shake out?
Yeah.
Jonathan Cooper, has done some good things for the Broncos. He hasn't been the most flashy option, but he has plenty of athletic upside. I think it's kind of like a Tim Patrick deal where undrafted / late round guy, so you underrate that athleticism, but he's a great athlete. Maybe he can take the leap to not dominance, but just being like a solid piece of this rotation that they can rely on. Same thing with Frank Clark. And can Nick Bonito knock either of those two guys off their perch? I mean, you would hope him to. He's a second round pick. The Broncos invested a good deal in him. It'd be nice if he's not the third guy coming off the bench and the fifth guy in that rotation.
Yeah. So if you were to predict it, Zach, how do you think it would go after that?
So you got your two starters. I think it's going to be Jonathan Cooper and Frank Clark, the next two up, and then Nick Bonito. This staff is not tied to Nick Bonito. Jonathan Cooper's been a better NFL player so far, and I think that's going to continue. I think Jonathan Cooper's underrated, and Frank Clark, they signed him as the proven veteran for a reason. He's going to eat a good number of snaps, and I think he can provide pass rush help and some early down help in the run game, while I think Bonito probably remains a designated pass rusher.
Okay, that's interesting.
How do you think it shakes out?
I kind of agree with you. I think when you're looking at snap counts, it's going to be a little more difficult to tell, because I imagine on your third and long situation where a pass play is coming, you're going to want Nick Bonito in more than the other guys, or at least you would hope so, because that's why was a second round draft pick for the Denver Broncos, is exactly for that type of situation, just to get after the passer. So I think it's kind of situational or dependent on what the down and distance is, right? I think that's kind of how it's going to be played out there. But Zach, do you have a training camp battle you want to highlight?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start at cornerback, where you and Bree have been hating on my man Damari Mathis.
No, I'm going to repeat myself from earlier. Okay. I think go, and then I'll rebuttal. Okay.
Sorry. I know it might not be the best scheme fit for him, but I'm honestly not that concerned about it. He's just about as big, just about as long, more athletic than Riley Moss. I think he can, and Riley Moss is a very athletic cornerback. But I don't know. I think he has the capability to play on an island. The tape might not be there yet, but he has good NFL tape, and that's something Riley Moss does not have. And Damari Mathis has a good deal of good NFL tape in that 1 year, and all the athletic upside in the world to keep building on it. Maybe this staff forces something, and you see Riley Moss start, but cornerback is a hard position to play in the NFL, but probably the hardest outside of quarterback. It's difficult to come in as a rookie and steal an established starter's starting job. And I think Damari Mathis is an established starter after what he showed last year. That said, you can't deny the draft investment the Broncos made in Riley Moss. So it's certainly going to be a battle. It's, I think, the only battle at a starting premium position. Edge, there's a battle, but it's further back. The starting tackles, we know who they are. Starting quarterback, we know who that is. This is really the only premium starting wide receivers. We know who they are. This is the only premium position with a battle in one of those starting spots. So it's one I definitely have my eyes on.
Okay. Well, it's Zach, I have to say, it's not that I'm hating on Damari Mathis. I just think that Damari Mathis is the better corner. I do. I think that he's a better corner than Riley Moss. My whole thing here is that I don't think Vance Joseph is going to play Damari Mathis. That's my whole thing. I don't think so. Because when I look at it, when I actually start breaking down, why did the Broncos draft Riley Moss? And then I start comparing Riley Moss to Damari Mathis. What is Damari Mathis good at compared to what is Riley Moss good at? Guys, there's not a lot of similarities here. So what does that tell you? It tells you that Van Joseph wants to go away from the style of cornerback Damari Mathis is and move more in the direction of Riley Moss. So I think that if Riley Moss makes it a close matchup there, he's going to win the job. That's what I think. I think that Vance Joseph wants to run a certain thing, and that's why Riley Moss was drafted there. Riley Moss is never going to be a man-to-man corner. He just literally will never be. Why was he drafted as highly as he was, though? Because Vance Joseph wants to run the system that Riley Moss best fits. I think that it's as plain as simple as that. He's carrying people up the sideline. He's big, he's tall. He's playing cover 1, cover 3. This is the type of corner he is.
I get that, but I just think you look at Damari Mathis. I think he's taller and longer than
Riley Moss.
No,
Riley Moss is slightly, I think, taller and longer. We looked this up on the podcast before.
Yeah, 30. Well, wait, he's got 30-inch arms. Damari Mathis has almost 32-inch arms, 31 and 7/8. Hand size 8.25. Riley Moss has bigger hands though. Height.
Well, okay, I don't want to go through every single thing.
Sorry.
Here, but
yeah, no, he's a little bigger. It's comparable. And I think Damari Mathis is not one who's lacking speed. He can carry these wide receivers down the sideline. I think in terms of weight, they're also similar. Let me just double check to make sure I'm not talking. Yeah, no, Damari Mathis is actually a little heavier at the combine. So it's not like, oh, well, he's just going to get bullied by bigger X receivers. And I understand Moss's tape is better there. As of right now, he is the better cover 3 corner.
Yes,
I would agree. But I think Damari Mathis has every skill set you want, every trait you would want, every athletic tool you would want to be able to match Riley Moss in that factor. And then he's already better at every other part of the position.
I don't think he's better at spotting the ball in the air. I
Fair.
don't think he's better
Fair.
at
No, the
pushing
ball
people down the sideline and being very aware of where he is on the field. There's certain things Riley Moss, at what he's good at, he's really good at. That's the main thing. But what he's bad at, he's really bad at. And I think that's kind of why it's telling of what Vance Joseph wants to do. Why else would you draft this guy that early? He's going to want to do what Riley Moss is good at, and what he's good at, he's really good at. So I don't know. That's just kind of, I think they're different. Like with Damari Mathis, Zach, we were having conversations in the draft about him being a nickel corner. And, you know, everyone knows what a nickel corner looks like. These guys are fast. They're not just fast, they're quick. They're moving in and out. They have to guard the entire left and right of the field at the same time. A guy could go left, he could go right. You need to be fast on your feet and quick. Riley Moss isn't that type of guy. I think that Riley Moss would be more of your safety corner combo. Damari Mathis is more of your nickel corner combo. He's one of
I'd agree.
They're different.
And I'd agree. And there's a chance, but I don't think Damari, like that skill set isn't going to make Damari Mathis deficient as a cover 3 corner. I think he can maybe achieve those skills. We'll see. Samuel Castro says, I think Mathis will get the start, but he'll be on a short leash. If VJ sees him struggling, then we'll see the rookie. I think that's probably where I'm at. I think Mathis will hold on to it through camp. But if there is any ups and downs, they'll be happy to throw Moss in. And then maybe to your point, what you were just saying, maybe Mathis's long-term spot, maybe the long-term view of this secondary is Surtain at one boundary spot, Moss at one boundary spot, and Mathis at the nickel once K1's gone after this season.
It's something that could happen. That's definitely something I could see happening. That's a great point, Zach. I want to move on and stick in the secondary, though, and I want to highlight the safety spot. Earlier in our news, we kind of, we had the breakdown of Justin Simmons giving a little shout to Caden Stearns for how great he looks. I'm just curious. I think Caden Stearns kind of has the head up in that safety room to be the starter alongside Justin Simmons. But Kareem Jackson's coming back, and then you also added J.L. Skinner, who, a lot like Riley Moss, is nothing like these other guys, which makes me a little curious of where everyone's going to fit. It just seems like a very loaded safety room. I'm interested to see how everyone ends up stacking up. I'm interested to see what even Kareem Jackson's role is on this team, or if he's a guy that has a role, not just in the locker room, but on the field. I think Kareem Jackson could be competing at multiple different positions against multiple different people, quite frankly. So I don't know. It's interesting, Zach. Do you think that it's just is what it is. You're going to have and then PJ Locke. How do I forget about PJ Locke? PJ Locke's a terrific football player. All these guys are really, really good. Me personally, Zach, I'm going to kind of rank them in how I think how good they are right off the bat, and you let me know if you agree with me. I'm going Justin Simmons 1. I'm going Caden Stearns 2. Those are going to be my 2 starting safeties. Going Kareem Jackson, PJ Locke, and then we're still running that high split safety system. I'm not really sure what we're doing, JL Skinner, but I'm putting JL Skinner 5. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, and I think you can justify the 5 safeties because you're going to see some safety corner or safety nickel versatility with like Caden Stearns and even PJ Locke. PJ Locke's proven he can be that dime guy. The Broncos are kind of shallow at that nickel corner spot. You look behind K1, and it's not great. It's Jaquan McMillian, who I do think probably makes the roster, but that's the next man up there. Troubling. And then it's Sang Bassi after that. Maybe Fayon Hicks squeezes in there. It's a huge drop off. You're probably, if something happens to K'Wan Williams, you might be turning to Caden Stearns. You might be turning to PJ Locke immediately. So I think it justifies a big safety room. And
so you think PJ Locke makes the roster this next year? And how confident are you in that, you would say?
Oh, man.
I really hope he does, by the way. I think he should. I'm just curious what like if you were to guess which way it would go.
Yeah, no, I think he does. But I don't know. I'd give him a 70% chance. He did just sign his new contract, I'm pretty sure, this offseason.
He did, but it was
which again isn't
deal.
huge.
And it was a 1-year deal, I believe, and it was like on a smaller deal.
But they did give him guarantees. Not a ton, but 250,000. Again, could they eat 250K in dead cap? Very easily, but that does give him, I think, a little dose of security. Here's what I'll say. I'll answer your question with one that I was thinking as you were setting up the safety room. What do you think the percentage chance is that Delaren Turner-Yell, the Broncos' other 4th-round pick from last year, makes this roster? Or wait, no, he was a 5th-round pick. I'm sorry.
DTY, I'm going at like 7% chance that he makes the roster this year. I think it's so slim. I think that his only real thing, even if a ton of injuries happened, he probably wasn't going to see the field this next year. And then I'm looking at the guys that could replace his snaps on special teams, and is he that much better of a special teams player than PJ Locke? Is he that much better of a special teams player?
PJ Locke's an ace on special teams.
Yeah. Is he that much better of a special teams player than JL Skinner should? And let me tell you, JL Skinner projects great on special teams. He's like big safety that runs straight really fast and hits people. Perfect. Let's suit him up. Get him out there. Kickoff team, punt team, all that different type of stuff. I'm going below 10%. I just don't see him making it.
And anything resembling a tie between JL Skinner and DTY is going to go to the one that Sean Payton drafted, not the one that Nathaniel Hackett drafted.
Yeah. I do think the weird thing about this is like JL Skinner, when you look at his skill set, sticks out like a sore thumb. His skill set is so different than these other guys.
But that's the thing.
I'm interested to see what is going on there.
I think Vance Joseph wants to make this defense the cover 3 type thing.
My take,
but it's not. Yeah, no, I think he wants it to be that. I guess where I would differ with you is I think that is launching in 2024. I believe some of what we've heard about from this coaching staff and the players even about carrying over some of the Evero stuff and mixing it with some of this Vance Joseph stuff. And then I think next year is when you see the Vance Joseph defense really launch in its entirety. Because again, like you have K'Wan Williams leave, maybe you move Damari Mathis over. Riley Moss has been, getting polished for a year. He probably gets some playing time because injuries happen in the NFL, and you feel good about putting him out on the boundary opposite Patrick Surtain all of a sudden. Maybe you move, I hate to say it, maybe you look at moving on from Justin Simmons or something to save money, putting Caden Stearns into that typical deep safety role, and JL Skinner is the future box safety to pair with that. Not saying it's what I would do, but it's not a crazy vision to imagine the Broncos having. I think it's going to be hard to pull off that big transition this year, but with all the youth they've injected that fits that Vance Joseph style, I think they're trending towards launching that in like 2024. Down the line, it's coming.
Well, okay. If that's the case, I think you'll be right. If they are planning on doing more of a mix this year, I think I'm going to be right. I think it's going to all depend on Vance Joseph and what he's trying to do with his defense. I really do, because both these guys have such different skill sets than everybody else. But, Zach, last one here. I want to get your last training camp battle. Do you have one more you want to highlight?
Yeah, and on what you were saying about Vance Joseph, that's why I'm so excited to see what this defense looks like when we get to see it in September.
Right.
Yeah, my last one here. Got to talk about the wide receivers. We can't talk about these camp battles and not bring up the wide receiver room, because it's going to be a bloodbath. You've got Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy locked in as starters. After that, it is anyone's guess. Marquez Callaway, Marvin Mims, KJ Hamler. Marvin Mims, by the way, we found out today, is dealing with a hamstring issue. KJ Hamler is on the NFI list. Kendall Hinton is on the PUP list. You've got Lil Jordan Humphrey in there. You've got Jalen Virgil in there. You've got Brandon Johnson in there. You've got Montrell Washington in there. And then you've got Nick Williams and Taylor Grimes. I'd be stunned if Nick Williams or Taylor Grimes makes the roster. The practice squad would probably be even a surprise from that bunch. But if the Broncos are fat at wide receiver and choose to carry 7, you're looking at 4 noteworthy cuts, because they have 11 noteworthy wide receivers right now.
Right.
So it's, man, and again, we know 3 that are safe. So who gets those final 3-4 roster spots out of the remaining 8 guys? Like, that's crazy. Half of them are going to end up disappointed. I would bet, I'm praying for Jalen Virgil and Brandon Johnson. I want to see them succeed. I bet it's those 2, Montrell Washington and KJ Hamler, that miss out ultimately. Kendall Hinton, Lil Jordan Humphrey. No, but I don't know, because then that's even 7. I don't. Who do you think makes it? Who do you think are the next 3-4 guys on this roster after those starting receivers?
I have no. It's so hard, dude. Like, you have your locks. I think that it's obviously Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton locks. After that, it's a lot of I have no idea, except for Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is the other lock in there. It's hard for me to. What was that?
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to straight up cut you off. What if I'll rapid fire these at you. Throw these wide receivers at you. Give me scale of 1 to 10 how confident you are that they'll be on the Broncos opening day
1
roster.
to 10, okay.
Yeah. 10 being most confident, 1 being least.
Okay.
Marquez Callaway.
I'm going to go with 7.
Marvin Mims.
10.
Yeah, they're not cutting him. KJ Hamler.
5.
Jalen Virgil.
4.
Kendall Hinton.
4.
Lil Jordan Humphrey.
2.
Wow. Brandon Johnson.
2.
Montrell Washington.
1.
Yeah. I would pretty much agree. I might have KJ Hamler lower than you, and then Kendall Hinton and Lil Jordan Humphrey. Like, I might have those 2 a 5, and then KJ Hamler a 4. But yeah, otherwise I'd be in lockstep with you there. It's going to be a bloodbath.
It's going to be a dogfight.
I have no idea how it's going to shape.
You know what I hope, Zach? I hope one of these guys that I just rated like a 2 really has a baller training camp, like Trinity Benson, right? That was a guy that I always remember, came out of nowhere. His training camp that year, guys, was so good. It was so awesome to see.
And he's done nothing since, and they got a free 5th round pick.
I know. I wonder why that is the case, because he balled out in training camp. There wasn't a guy out there covering him. And then in preseason, that game 1 before he got traded, there wasn't a guy out there covering him. I really am curious about that situation, why that didn't work out in Detroit. But
because they needed wide receivers.
Yeah, they did. And I'm just curious, Zach, if there were one guy that you think could have that Trinity Benson-esque training camp, maybe not the results,
Oh, I
maybe
like
even
it.
show out a little more, who do you think that would be in this room?
Jalen Virgil. Jalen Virgil, he's an athletic freak, made the freaks list every single year he was at App State. Track star speed and is a bodybuilder. Like, you love that combo. I don't think he really got much of an opportunity with the last staff in season when the Broncos were desperate following KJ Hamler's like absences. We're desperate for some vertical field stretching. They just still wouldn't go to him. I think there's something there. He was so dang good all throughout camp last year. The athletic traits are so special. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit of a rasshole here. But we even saw it last year. Like he had that big what was it, 66-yard touchdown. He had a 19-yard catch too. So we've seen it, like, again, very small sample size, but we've seen he has the athletic skills to just take the top off a defense. That should be valued in, I think, what this Sean Payton, Russell Wilson offense will look like. It should look like the old Seattle offenses, play action and bomb it downfield. Jalen Virgil's perfect for that, so he'd be my pick.
You know who's even better for that, Zach? And it's Marquez Callaway, because not only does he doesn't match the speed. Jalen Virgil's faster, but Marquez Callaway is fast. He just has more size. When I'm looking at those deep threat wide receivers that fit so good with Russell Wilson, I'm thinking about not just the speed, but the size. And Marquez Callaway balances those things pretty fantastic. So I don't know. I could see. I could see him having a massive training camp, and not only that, I could see one of these Broncos wide receivers being traded in season and Marquez Callaway taking their spot and thriving in it. I really do believe that. Am I off base there?
Sorry, no, I'm fully with you. The only reason I didn't say him is because I think he's there. As we were numbering them off, something that jumped out to me. Okay, Marvin Mims, safe. That's another lock. Maybe he doesn't end up being number 4 on the depth chart, but he's making that roster. Okay, so that's 4 spots taken. I don't think they're cutting Marquez Callaway. He's a Sean Payton guy. He's really talented. When the Saints were weapon depleted 2 seasons ago, he became more or less their top weapon. I just think, I don't know. I think that you might have 5 spots locked in and everyone's battling for that last one, that last 2. That said, his contract is just about the same as PJ Locke's. Where there are some guarantees, they're a little bit tied to it, but you're looking at $300,000 in guarantees. They can part with that so easy.
No, I mean, hey, this is a simple. I think that he's too good to be cut, but after your top 4 there, and even one of those guys could end up being traded, truthfully. Out of those top 4 guys, it's a dogfight. If one of those guys comes out and doesn't perform, they'll be cut. It's just as simple as that. Even Marquez Callaway, if Marquez Callaway came out and had a terrible training camp, he will be cut. Like, that's just how this wide receiver room is going to be. It's full of dogs. People are going to be fighting, man. It's going to be awesome. I really can't wait. I think that's the most exciting one, me personally. I think wide receiver is the most exciting one to pay attention to this year. But yeah, guys, I think that ends today's show, and I just really want to implore everybody on here, if you're listening right now, if you didn't catch the beginning of the show, this is our last episode on Mile High Sports, part of their YouTube. If you enjoy listening to us live, we always have, Samuel Castro is always in the comments. We always have such great people listening to us that always have supported us. So big shout out to you guys. And if you want to follow more of our content, please go follow the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. We will be live on there. The exact same thing that's going on here right now. Yeah, we will be live also on the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. Same days, nothing will change. We do have some stuff coming down the line, and we'll let you know of that over there. Hey, big shout out to all of our listeners, man. We really, 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 really appreciate you guys.
Yep. And all those, there's new stuff down the line. Everything else new that's coming is only additive. We'll get back up to 3 shows a week here very shortly. And then, yeah, we've got some exciting surprises. This is the only kind of sad one. Thank you to Mile High Sports for the time. And yeah, everyone, please search Let's Talk Broncos wherever you want to find us, and you'll find us there. If you listen to the audio version of this show, don't worry, nothing's going to change for you. Just like, it's perfect. It'll keep being there. There'll be like some RSS feed migration stuff happening on the back end, but that won't affect you at all. So don't worry about this. Though, hey, if you want to subscribe to us on YouTube, supports the channel further. We appreciate it. And I'll echo what Samuel's saying in the comments right now. Go USA.
Yeah, let's go. Shout out to Samuel Castro. And guys, until next time, go Broncos.